Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. After the events of yesterday and last night, as the coverage continued to unfold, there was no way I was not. I usually get on Sundays and have a taping for you all, but today for sure, for sure, for sure. Okay, so we're in the thick of it now, huh? Spirit said, we've been looking at the likelihood of what might happen in with FDT. I call him FDT and fake felon fraud DT, um, and what we've been getting, or at least what I've been getting in the readings the last couple of times I looked, was that didn't see actual boots on the ground, but this, the bombers, the B-2. When we heard the B-2 was headed over there, it was all but done. And Spirit said that there was going to be some sort of action this whole 2 weeks, and people have been calling them, Donnie 2 weeks, DT, D2W. It's the new acronym. Um, you know, so now we're understanding that that was sort of a ruse to throw them off and make it seem as if they still had time. Iran still had time for, there was time for diplomacy and talks, but actually it was to throw them off, that they wouldn't know when it was going to happen. Also interesting, we have clearly AOC, coming out and saying, calling for an impeachment. There is very clear, and she's not the only one, but very clear, a case for the fact that there was no congressional approval, that something like this should have been done through a congressional vote, just completely bypassed that. But what else is new, right? That's not shocking any longer. And due to that is what leaders like Schumer should be saying, Jeffrey should be saying, AOC is saying, there'll be a lot of calls for that and talk around that, but there's no numbers there. So I'm not going to waste Spirit's time, your time, to go in and see and really read on impeachment. I have a feeling some of you are going to ask me about that, but I just don't see it, and I'm not getting that sense from my guides right now, you all. Not that there isn't justification and cause. I want to be really clear about that, but the the support for it. Now we do have, interestingly, who's been coming out forcefully against this administration and ratcheting up a little bit is Massey out of Kentucky, and he has come out and said, "Look, this is completely unconstitutional," right? But does he have enough, does he have enough pull, enough juice to get numbers behind him to result in something actually taking place, to actually call for an impeachment? Yeah, we'll look at that a little bit later. What I am really being called to do, and by the way, I just jumped right in. If you are new to the channel, if you just landed here, my name is Afefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. Clearly, I'm a tarot reader. I'm also a former newspaper journalist. So I try to, we do the woo-woo, we go to spirit, get some context for what's going on, deeper insights. But I also try and stay informed and, and do my thing, right? Once a journalist, always a journalist. I'm also an initiated priestess in both Wiccan and African traditions, right? So, I got my woo-woo in place. All right. We're hearing a lot that this could be like, with Bush and Iraq all over again. That 4-minute speech last night with Rubio, ooh, for entertainment purposes only. Rubio, the look in the eyes, like there's nobody home. Is it me? Am I the only one? Like nobody home. Like, woo, okay. Him, Hegseth looking like he needs to get to a meeting like yesterday, looking really stressed. And like he needs a meeting real quick. And of course, Vance, who Spirit said in my last reading, keep your eye on him. Not that he's going to go far. He does not have a future, a lasting future in terms of being in office. But he is moving up in terms of having more influence on FDT. And that brings me to the point of this whole God, it was a short speech, thankfully, and still awful. But when he got up there, when FTT got up there, like, God this and God that, and on behalf, and God and pray, and God, all, within this 4 minute time span. Like, it was unnatural, it was disturbing, and I get that it was fed a lot by JD Vance, who, if nothing else, is a student of politics and keeping up. And so I think we're seeing a lot of commonalities in Bush's approach to what turned out to be the forever war in Iraq. And I want to take a look and see if, in fact, Bibi owned him. And who had been on the phone lately and interfacing with Bibi the most lately was JD. All right. So Bibi is owning FDT right now, just owning him. This all started, around with Gaza, and and the absolute inability of FTT to get a hold on that, get a grip on that, and try and negotiate any kind of deal between Hamas and Israel. Boom, just did not happen. Pardon the pun with the boom. Now we have this situation playing out. Bibi knew good and full well the only way the man stays out of prison, Netanyahu, is just to keep, figuring out where to go to war. That's how if he loses power, he's in trouble, right? All right, Spirit. The next 3 to 6 months, is this going to turn into another forever war like Iraq did? The situation in Iran and the Middle East, is this long term? Is this something that now they're in it, not going to be able to get out of it? Is this a repeat, or not an actual repeat? Clear. Ooh, what just jumped out? Holding power. We just talked about it. I'm reading from. I may go to tarot if Spirit directs me, but I'm reading from the Trish James predictions deck. Holding power. This works both ways. We were just talking about Netanyahu, gonna go be in war forever because that's the only way he can maintain power. But also this was a way for FDT, because everything else he's done, we've heard, polling has tanked, tariffs, the economy, the debacle with deportations and immigration. Holding power. All right, let's see what else. Next 3 to 6 months, Spirit. Is this going to be a long-term thing? Is this something now, now the U.S. is in, cannot get out? Rockets and SpaceX. Oh. So now we've got Musk back in the mix. Reliance upon Musk. Because this is his milieu, with continued military intervention, needing the satellites, etc., etc. So he's back in the mix, not that he ever left. And perhaps supplying, furnishing, I just heard, like furnishing supplies in some manner. Battle warship. Oh gosh, you all. And all for money. All for money. Okay, I definitely am getting the presence of Musk involved in this in some way, whether it's supplying satellites, supplying materials, battle warship. It feels like there's a coalescing among Middle East nations as well. Am I getting that right, Spirit? I'm going to go to tarot. I'm getting, like other Middle East nations coming together as well, because there is an alarm, clearly and rightfully so, that if this is happening to Iran, who's next, what's next, especially if you've got Netanyahu on the loose. 9 of Swords. Yeah, this is Middle Eastern nations coming together, and also Qatar. Some people say Qatar, others say Qatar. I've had corrections in the comments. I get it. But, with all this love fest that was happening with the plane that was being gifted, I don't know what the status of that is as well. But they're in that mix now as well. And so there is a great deal of, I think what Spirit is saying is what's going to draw this out and keep this active. Not going to claim a forever war, but definitely there is no quick. We're going to go in and bomb these sites, destroy your nuclear capabilities, at least in the short term, force you to the negotiating table, and then wrap it all up and tie it in a box and put a bow on it and say it's all, call it a day. Not going to go down that way. 100% not going down that way. There's the Eight of Pentacles. That's the plans already in place for a drawn out and continued effort, because we also know that there are U.S. bases in the region that are now under threat, right? Spirit, will we see, I'm going to go ahead and ask it, will we see a loss of life among U.S. troops? Will we see a loss of life among U.S. troops at those bases in the region? Queen of Cups. And the Magician. Not nearly as bad as it could be. All right. There is some intervention here. And I'm not quite sure who that is. I almost feel like it's somebody, I can't, well, sometimes we get impressions that don't quite seem logical on the surface. I'm getting European Union, no, or somebody within the European Union. This is not U.S. But, this could be, is this someone within the U.S. whose voice becomes loud enough with that magician energy, whose voice becomes loud enough to say, we've got to have these protections for our troops. Like really stay put. That's our troops being protected there because they have to be in the region. Stay put. New rules and policies and laws. All right, you all, I'm going to back that up a little bit. I think this could very well be someone here in the United States. Tulsi Gabbard, he's already dismissed her 5 times. So I'm not so sure that's who we're looking at there. But it's somebody whose voice grows. And it could even be, I don't see Susie Wiles getting that involved. However, she is someone who has his ear, and someone who even J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Hegseth, everybody knows the power that she carries. And we do have a cyber attack. I was going to ask about that. Okay, here's what I'm getting. More so than Iran being able or furthering and escalating by trying to attack troops in the region. Not saying that won't happen. In fact, I think there will be some pushback, but the actual damage from that feels like it's mitigated. If this feels like more the route that they're going to take, you all, to have a larger impact on U.S. soil, right? Something around energy and cyber attacks. And I have read, I'm not going to claim that I'm getting all that spiritually. I have read some coverage that has indicated that might be part of their retaliatory approach. And because it could potentially impact larger numbers, have an impact on U.S. soil rather than just troops in the region. Trains or transport, something that disrupts traffic. And that is why, thank you, Spirit, that is why they want to keep Elon in the mix as well. Elon et al. I'm not saying it's all on him, but that is why they're recognizing between the cyber attack and trains or transport, there's something here where the retaliation feels like for right now, for the time being, that it would focus more on energy grids, airwaves, satellites, data transmission, cyber attacks, etc., versus bombs, bullets, tanks or whatever, trying to go after U.S. troops in the region. All right, Spirit, are we going to see? I just want to look at him for a minute. Hold on while I pick these cards up. Because I'm also getting this escalates his deterioration. Because if nothing else, with that narcissistic disorder, this is going to be so huge. I'm sorry for, I have that mic right there. So if that was super loud, I'm sorry. Let me put the cards over here. This is going to be so, again, the whole America First piece, and that he got played by Bibi Netanyahu. People see that for what it is. It would be different if part of FDT's and the White House's approach all along had been this sort of tough talk. Here's, we're going to go after Iran, blah, 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 blah. But it was all along, we want diplomacy. We don't want war. We want to be, the whole isolationist thing. So clearly Bibi got what he wanted. This is him. This is FDT in service to Bibi. I do want to look at Putin. Who's a friend of Iran, who's, the whole oil situation over there. Putin is not happy with this turn of events. Bet you that much. And we know that in addition to being beholden and played by Bibi, Putin runs circles around FDT. Always has, always will, right? Spirit, what is going to be the reaction from Putin in regards to FDT? What's going to happen between the two of them? Putin and FDT. Putin and FDT. King of Wands, that's Putin coming in hot. Already been in touch. Now, I don't know. Seven of Wands, yeah, already ratcheting up, solidifying his position, Russia's position within, with its allies, China et al. But I also wonder, Spirit, did Putin have a heads up that this was going to happen? I can't imagine that he didn't. Did Putin have a heads up that the U.S. was going to have these strikes? Did he have a heads up? Did Putin know? Disappointing outcome. He knew. And he knew, but that was a part of what that wait 2 weeks was about. Wait and see if diplomacy will hold up, because he did not want this. Putin 100% did not want this. It disrupts the supply chains in the region. Did not want this. Very, very disappointed in this. Imprisoned, detained. Is this American hostages? Tension escalates. Okay, so that's another. All right. I'm not saying, I want to be clear, and again, for entertainment purposes only, right? Dum. I'm not saying that Putin would take U.S. hostages, or that he would, but he might not. It wouldn't be beneath him to plant those seeds to suggest that that could also be a part of Iran's retaliation. That taking American hostages could be another way to embarrass FDT, to overwhelm the administration, to show its ineptitude when it comes to something of this magnitude on a global scale. That's what we're getting. That tension escalates, and the tension escalating between Putin and FDT, who has up to now tried to do everything within his power to keep that friendship, or to foster a friendship. And we have floods and heavy rain. That feels like symbolically like a deluge of information, but also this Rubio et al. Is, and what's his name? Is it Witkoff? Who has the ties in? I think it's Witkoff. I think because in fact he went to Russia not too long ago, right? That there's going to be a real concerted effort to amp up floods and heavy rain being symbolic for amping up the ties and the communication, and really trying to prove to Russia this in no way was meant to damage our relationship, our ties, but this was basically us having to do what we had to do in the region. And it looks like Putin's going to, that disappointing outcome, and on the back channel, telling the allies in the region, in the Middle East, this is something else that you could consider to strike back at the U.S. is to go after, if you can find its troops, or take troop members, or those who happen to be in diplomats or others who I know at this point, I think a lot of people have already gotten the heck out of there. There's an experiment or a test that comes up, you all. What does that mean, Spirit? In what way? It feels like experimenting with different ways to fire in a heat wave, right? Okay. There's a couple of things going on here. One is, this feels like Iran already either had moved some of its nuclear components, that they did not get everything was not destroyed, and or because I'm still looking at Russia here and Putin, if there's some sort of assistance that he would offer or has thought about potentially offering to help someone in the region, whether it's Iran specifically or other Middle Eastern nations, to help them boost and test their capabilities, right? So that they don't feel like they just have to, get manhandled by the U.S. So this, yeah, Putin's going to be behind the scenes, and he's already behind the scenes, and he's already making moves. He knew that this was coming. He was very disappointed. He was a major factor in trying to tell FDT, hold your horses, try to work it out a different way, because this doesn't work well or bode well for him. But he's going to be on that back end behind the scenes trying to help them find Middle East and Iran specifically find other ways to deal with the situation. All right, and wreak some havoc. Again, more so than weapons or weapons of mass destruction, not counting that out, but it looks like what could be potentially more damaging, and the plans in effect, and also something that Russia is very good at, and also why they would need Elon Musk, is in regards to cyber attacks and attacking or disrupting energy grids on U.S. soil. So lots of prayers around that. Keep our eyes open around that. I'll go back to Spirit around that if I need to. And please take really good care of yourselves, you all. Back up your systems, be prepared, have lots of water on hand. I'm not an alarmist. I don't live that way. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. That's where being a journalist sort of, I think, comes in handy, because it does keep me very grounded. I try to deal with things as they come or as they evolve. That said, still be careful, think about the eventualities, think about, have a little extra money on hand in case the ATMs go down for a day or two or something like that. Just think about those things, not panic, not, the sky is falling. It is not. But just be careful and think about think about what needs to be done on a practical level. All right. Take really good care of yourselves. Chin up, chins, all of us, chins up, shoulders back. Right? We will get through this, and it's a whole nother topic that we will look at later in terms of lasting impact and the absolute decimation of the GOP as a result of this. This is just one more, they just showed me a Jenga a Jenga thing. This is just one more piece that's been pulled out of their toppling, or will topple Jenga, right? Between the economy, between what's happening, what we see playing out in with deportations and immigration, which is getting uglier by the minute, what we see happening in the courts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now to add this on top of it, yeah, 2026 is going to be really, really interesting. Dems got their work cut out for them, and I've read on that, and we'll look more into that. They need to get their, pardon my language, shit together. Like, seriously, now, right? And all this mealy mouth Jeffries and Schumer chasing each other around with their canned speeches. Do better, really. Do better, gentlemen. All right. All right. I'll talk to you all in a couple of days. Take really good care out there. Thank you again. I appreciate you. Bye.